Hello and welcome to the Friday, December 6th, 2019 edition of Tesla Daily, unofficial Tesla podcast. My name is Rob Maurer. Today we're talking about some news on Made-in-China Model 3s, Cybertruck, and an update on the Elon Musk trial, as well as a few other topics. Tesla stock on the day today did finish up 1.7% to $335.89. That compared to the NASDAQ, which was up 1%, so a strong day for the macro environment as a whole. That macro increase today is being attributed to really good job numbers for November in the United States. The economy reportedly added 266,000 jobs on the month versus analyst expectations of 187,000, and the unemployment rate fell to just 3.5%, which is matching the lowest level since 1969. Another somewhat positive development is that China also said that they would waive some import tariffs on some soybean and pork products. I'm not putting a ton of stock in that. It is a positive gesture, but it also could be seen as a negotiation tactic too, so who knows. That being said, let's talk about the Tesla-specific China news today, which could be pretty big. There are two pieces of news here. The first seems pretty official at this point, and the second I would still like a little bit more confirmation on, but I'll share what we have currently. I do also want to thank Vincent on Twitter, at Vincent13031925, for reporting on this and also taking the time to help me piece together some of the information. So the first piece of news is that today, China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology added the Made-in-China Model 3 to its list of recommended new energy vehicles, which should make it eligible for a subsidy, which is expected to be around 24,750 yuan, or around $3,500 US. We had talked about this possibility earlier this week, and it now does seem to be coming to fruition, but I would still note one caveat. For all the reports out there, I continue to see a lot of the word expect included in those reports as it relates to the Model 3 being granted that incentive. So as with a lot of things with China, it's difficult to fully know for sure, but it does seem to be heading in that direction. All right, and then the second piece of news, and this again is a little bit more speculative, but it appears that the Made-in-China Model 3 may have now finally been granted approval for sale and delivery. So let me walk you through all the information that I have as I understand it right now. And again, thank you to Vincent for the help on this. So there's a Twitter account at TeslaCN, which has a display name of Tesla China that had a pair of tweets today. The first tweet was on the subject we had just discussed, the released list that included the Model 3, opening up for potential incentives. And then the second tweet reads, quote, "This official EV incentive recommendation from government does not only mean the subsidies, but it is also a permit to sell and deliver China-made Model 3 to customer," end quote. So when I saw this morning, I didn't really pay too much mind to that portion of this tweet. That first part of the tweet had an official link to a government document, but this part seemed more speculative. This account only has about 250 followers, though that's growing now. So at first, this was something that I did not put much stock into. However, Vincent shared an important piece of information that changed my perspective on this a little bit. That new information was a post on Weibo today from Alan Wang, who is a Tesla China general manager. And according to Vincent, that account has been previously authenticated by the official Tesla China Weibo account. This is important because today Alan Wang shared a status update on Weibo that had a screenshot of those two tweets from at TeslaCN on Twitter that I just mentioned, and the caption of, quote, "Today is a good day," end quote. Translated, of course. So that obviously adds a lot more credibility to these tweets from this at TeslaCN account. I don't know if that's an official account. No one has been able to verify that for me. But even if it's not, I don't think that Alan Wang would be getting that information from this account and then posting it if he didn't have that information already from another source. So that's one trail of evidence. Separately from that, Kelvin Yang7 on Twitter, who we've also gotten information about China from in the past, shared a link to a government document that now has Tesla listed on it, and he is saying that this document is the final permit that Tesla needs to start delivering cars. So this is a separate thread from the sort of Alan Wang angle happening here right around the same time. So again, nothing official, but I think mounting evidence of approval. That being said, Kelvin Yang also offered up a caveat. He's got a connection of some form to the delivery team in China, and the last update that connection had heard was that deliveries were scheduled to begin in January. So if that ends up being the case, even with this approval, we may still not see deliveries hitting the fourth quarter. Now, it's definitely possible that this person just has not been updated yet with new information. I think I'd put the odds of that at least 50-50, But I wanted to make sure to at least point that out because if this approval for sale is legitimate, it may not necessarily mean that deliveries are imminent for Q4. I don't know why Tesla would hold those back, but I feel like we've heard January a few times now, so I just wanted to add some caution there. Now, in terms of if this actually matters, no, not really, but I know a lot of people trade Tesla, and sometimes this news can be impactful for the share price over the short term. Long term, it doesn't matter if it's today or if it's a month from now. Either way, it's clear that the pace has been incredible. Let's move on then to the news on the Cybertruck. Tesla has updated the production timelines on the order page for the Cybertruck for both the opening price point single motor and the top of the line tri-motor versions. Previously, production was supposed to begin late 2021 for both the single motor and the dual motor versions, with the tri-motor following in late 2022, but now the tri-motor has been flipped in terms of timing with the single motor. So the tri-motor and the dual motor now expected to begin production late 2021, and the single motor not until late 2022. This, of course, follows Musk's tweet on November 23rd that said that their first 150,000 orders had contained about 42% configuring for tri-motor, 41% for dual motor, and 17% only for single motor. So it makes sense to adjust for that higher demand for the higher trim. However, it's a bit surprising because I think the general consensus was that the only reason that the tri-motor was later was because it would be using some different technology, and that's how it was really making that leap up to the 500 plus mile range. If that wasn't the case, why not just start out with the higher end version as production is lower, so that as you have those higher depreciation and amortization costs as you are ramping up, you can more easily cover that from selling the higher price versions first. That's generally what Tesla has done. They made a bit of an exception with not doing the Performance Model 3 first, but I think that was just because of production complexity with dual motors, which I suppose you could make the same argument for the tri-motor Cybertruck, but the scale of the Model 3 ramp compared to the size of Tesla's business at that time was much more significant than the scale of the Cybertruck ramp is going to be to Tesla's scale of the business in 2021. Very different scenarios. I think that plus the huge jump in specs from the dual motor to the tri-motor indicated that maybe this would be a new technology not being ready. However, this sort of calls that into question. Maybe this is just a couple battery packs doubled up from the single or dual motor versions. On the other hand, maybe those strong pre-orders encouraged Tesla to accelerate their timing for the inclusion of this newer technology in the Cybertruck line. If it does involve new battery technology, then perhaps Tesla had planned to allocate the initial production of that new battery technology to a different product line, maybe the S or the X or the Roadster or some combination of those. And maybe with new information they've reprioritized, or if there is a new technology, maybe they accelerated their plans for ramping that up. That seems less likely to me because I'm sure they probably already had maxed out those plans if something like this were to be in the works. But definitely some interesting possibilities here, and it's intriguing to see those timelines flip. Of course, as I'm recording this, though, I did also come across a post on the Tesla Motors Club's forums that referenced a Motor Trend article that referenced the 500-mile range Cybertruck. And Motor Trend says, quote, "A new double-stacked battery will give a tri-motor Cybertruck up to 500 miles of range," end quote. So maybe it is as simple as that. Next up is the Elon Musk trial, which, as you can tell by now, because I'm going to put it in the title, Elon Musk has won. The jury has sided with him as the defendant, and he will not be subject to pay any damages to Unsworth. Closing arguments were made today. Unsworth's side was asking for $190 million. $5 million in actual damage, $35 million in assumed damage, and no less than $150 million in punitive damages. That is quite the ask. Of course, the jury now has not awarded any of it. Ryan Mack is reporting that he took an elevator down with 5 jurors and said, quote, "No one wanted to talk until one said, quote, 'It was very clear,' end quote." Deliberation lasted under an hour, and one of the jury members apparently told tech reporter Olivia Rudgard that the deliberation lasted only 20 minutes. On his way out of court, Musk apparently said that, quote, "My faith in humanity is restored," end quote. And I'm thankful that I can now stop talking about this topic. Something I'm not tired of talking about is the Model 3 winning awards. It has now been chosen for another Car of the Year type of award from Norwegian magazine Maurer. This is a broadly published magazine in Norway that, from my understanding, is distributed to the Norwegian Automobile Federation, which has more than 500,000 members. That's pretty significant given the fact that Norway's population is just over 5 million people. From a group of 10 finalist vehicles, the Model 3 won the Best Car Purchase of the Year award. Maurer, translated, said, quote, "First and foremost, the Model 3 wins because it is currently unbeatable in the classic electric car range and charging capabilities, plus on technology, driving characteristics, and lots of power. All this, of course, has its price, and that's where Tesla really pushes its competitors. No one offers as much electric car for the money as Tesla." End quote. They did mention a couple weaknesses for the Model 3, saying that the detail quality is too poor, and, quote, "When things need to be fixed, customers have experienced a wait for repairs and service that shows Tesla is not equipped for the move. In Maurer, we have written many articles about the weaknesses in the service section, often following tips from readers and NAF members. But it should be said, such tips are rarer than before." End quote. Even if it is being mentioned as a weakness, nice to at least see that progress also being acknowledged. Thanks to Tim Knutson for passing that one along to me. That will wrap it up for today and for the week, but before we do that, I want to, of course, say a huge thank you to everybody supporting this podcast on Patreon. I could not produce this without that support. If you want to learn more about doing that, you can find those details at patreon.com/Tesla Daily Podcast. This week, special thank you to our newest silver supporters, Nick Turner, Eric Williams, Ingve Solberg, and Andy Damas. Really appreciate that. And then, as always, huge thank you to our Ludicrous producer, Vincent Smith, our platinum producers, Rob Gill, Jeremy Cooke, Rish Singh, Nick Wood, Fela Winkelmolen, and Troy Cherasaro, our platinum supporters, Will Brocklebank, Trillium Smith, Evan Stair, Ty and David Dundas, Rick Senta, Amir Tabani, Todd Ludington, Tesla in the Gong, Cristobal Boateng, Brad Rode, Alan Rudnick, Timothy O'Grady II, Andre Kent, and Saeed. And of course, all our gold level supporters, including Joel Sapp, Andrea Fabretto, Michael Pastroni, Robert Miracle, Brett Young, Craig Murphy, Julian Roloff, Anders Refeld, Tyler Crawford, the Gubermans, Guy Masters, Daniel Erickson, Joris Pomans, Nathan Lucht, Gregor Weisgerber, James Smith, Joe Bush, Tim Turnstrom, Brian Karotis, Nick Mark, Ron Rubico, Matthew Lipton, Brian Anderson, Tony Naff, Pat O'Shea, Felix Kranberg, Kelly Bergman, Dwight Schum, Samuel Zong, Pitt Hotstetler, Callum Burnett, Jason Daly, Urban Lindeskog, Paul Dobbins, Bian Concepcion, Anders Jensen, Mike McHenry, Stephen Lewis, Daniel Landy, John Ferreira, Will Berger, Ryan Scanlon, Mark Zilka, Dale Lutz, Lars, Chris Dasbach, Karan Verandani, Nils Engelking, Christian Moore, Jeff Lowe, Steve F., Christopher Bauco, Burton Torgerson, Andrew Clark, Josh Seabloom, Brad Lettner, Spencer Gravel, Peter Kuba, Jeff Topino, Michael Thomas, Dustin Hart, Crypto Dread, Nicholas Latowski, Lewis Ferris, Sam Passig, Danny Hughes, Greg Nichols, Paul Vieger, Eric DeBrune, Doug Wandell, Ali Nasri, Roger McMorrow, Matthias Munkmeyer, Joseph Pye, Alan Levy, Brian Terry, Paul Meester, Jim Prihoda, Chris Duggar, Eric Stewart, Cos Cosmos, Joshua Kessler, Christopher Carroll, Seamus Johnson, Duncan Ashworth, and Peter Vanderlyn. Thank you all so much. Have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you on Monday for the December 9th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.